If you've been thinking about buying a new iPad Pro, stop, don't do it. Do not click that add to cart button because the next iPad Pro that's in the works at Apple right now is gonna be so massively different that it's gonna blow your mind, and I'm not even kidding. So do not buy an iPad Pro, especially the M2, which is an embarrassment of an upgrade. And now let's get into the leaks we have for the next iPad Pro. We just got a brand new report from Ross Young saying that the next iPad Pro is gonna have an OLED display, and both models are gonna have an increase in terms of the size from 11 inches to 11.1 and from 12.9 to 13 inches. And there's actually some huge significance to that, and I'm gonna explain why in just a minute. But I do wanna mention that the OLED display is gonna be much better than you think, because right now we have mini LED, which is great. It works very, very well, and it is extremely bright. And a lot of people say that OLED is not as good because it's not as bright, but these new OLED iPads are gonna be amazing because they're gonna be using dual stacked OLED panels, which means you have one OLED panel in front of the other. And when they utilize both of them, it's gonna allow you to have brightness just as good as mini LED, but it's OLED, so you don't have that halo effect behind white text when everything else is black like we currently have on the mini LED. You're not gonna have that problem with these new dual stacked OLED displays. They're gonna be absolutely amazing, and I think it's gonna be worth waiting for those to come out just for the OLED display difference alone. But wait, it gets even better. Now, I've been putting some puzzle pieces together in terms of everything going on with Apple's iPad, and I believe that these new iPad Pros are gonna be insane because of that difference in the display size. Now, I personally believe that they're most likely to use the same 11-inch and 12.9-inch chassis that they currently have because that's the easiest way to go about it. But the problem is that if they make the bezels thinner, that's gonna cause problems with the Face ID sensors that are jam-packed into those bezels. Now, we already know that the new iPad 10 came out, and it has a brand new landscape camera orientation, which is amazing. It's absolutely awesome, but the problem is, because of that landscape camera, they were not able to put the Apple Pencil 2 magnetic wireless charger right there on the side, forcing them to stick with the original Apple Pencil. And the reason they couldn't do that was because the camera got in the way of that wireless charging connector, so they completely scrapped the Apple Pencil connector altogether and just chose to have the camera there. Now, imagine this with the next iPad Pro. I fully believe that it is gonna have a landscape camera, so it's gonna be in that other position, which means the entire iPad layout is gonna be meant for a landscape kind of magic keyboard position. But here's where it gets interesting. I believe that Apple could be planning to give the next iPad Pro the dynamic island. Yes, the same one that we just got on the iPhone 14 Pro models. Now what that means, check this out, this is actually very, very clever. The dynamic island is gonna be sitting a little bit lower into the display, and that's gonna allow them to thin the bezels, so we get thinner bezels, and below that little portion of the edge of the display, we're gonna have the dynamic island. And because all of the cameras and sensors are a little bit lower, further away from the edge, they're still gonna be able to keep the Apple Pencil wireless charger right there because the Face ID cameras went down. That is the absolute perfect solution for the problem that we have with the iPad 10. So we're gonna keep the Face ID sensors with the camera and the Apple Pencil wireless charger at the same time. And that's gonna allow Apple to give it the dynamic island. Now, if you think about it, the reason that we don't have anything like that right now is because it's very hard to cut LCD displays. Like when we first had the iPhone XR with the LCD display with the notch, there were reports that there was a lot of issues with Apple cutting the actual display because it's hard to do with LCD. And if you think about it, a lot of the displays these days that have hole punches or anything like that, like the dynamic island in the iPhone, they use OLED displays, which are much more easy in terms of making cutouts and everything like that. So it perfectly coincides with the dynamic island coming to the iPad Pro when it also gets the OLED display. And that is gonna happen in early 2024, which is springtime around March, which is perfect in terms of the timeline because it's around 18 months between every refresh, so that matches up perfectly. And with that said, Apple giving the dynamic island to the iPad Pros is gonna make them feel a lot different, a heck of a lot different with that dynamic island and more useful. And of course, OLED is gonna be amazing. Now, in case that dynamic island idea on the iPad Pro is a little bit too crazy or far-fetched, there's actually another option to this main idea with the thinner bezels. There's actually another way that Apple can fit in both a landscape orientation camera and the wireless magnetic charger for the Apple Pencil. Now, there have been rumors of us getting a new Apple Pencil 3 sometime in the future, and I do think it would make sense to launch with an iPad Pro, and I think the 2024 model would make perfect sense for that launch. Now, instead of having the magnetic connector for the Apple Pencil right in the center, right where the Face ID camera sensors is supposed to be on that new model, they could split it up into two different magnetic connectors with wireless charging coils on the side. That way you could still put your Apple Pencil right on top and it's gonna magnetically connect, except now you're gonna have a magnet over here and over here sitting around the Face ID sensors in the middle, which means that Face ID is still gonna be within the thinner bezels without the dynamic island, and everything is still gonna work out. That is definitely another option which might make more sense than giving it the dynamic island. So that might be a more plausible or reasonable solution to that problem. But on the back, we are also expecting Apple to give us MagSafe wireless charging like we have in the iPhones. Now, that has been rumored by Mark Gurman, and I believe that this 2024 iPad Pro is also gonna have that. So with that said, this is essentially gonna be the biggest iPad Pro redesign that we've seen in years. Definitely a lot better than the current M2 iPad Pro. So if you can wait until early 2024, then I would recommend that you do not buy any iPad Pro right now. Just sit tight with whatever iPad you have, just get through 2023, which is gonna be an uncertain year, and then in 2024, we're gonna get an amazing iPad Pro update, and that is what I recommend. So if you completely disagree with me on these thoughts, then let me know down in the comment section below. And if you wanna see which iPad I recommend that you buy right now, then use the YouTube product tagging feature to check it out. Thanks for watching, and click the circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one.